Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World weekly series. I'm Becky, and once again, I'm going to be your host. And today, we're going to be talking about finding bookkeeping jobs as a digital nomad with my guest, Carole Campbell. Carole, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Becky. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here, Carole, because you are the very first bookkeeper we've had on the show, and we have not talked about this line of work before, and it might open up some new doors for people.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to remote work, so I'm glad to be here. Happy to share.
Right. Before we get into it, I would love for you to share with everybody about your digital nomad journey and how you got started, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I am someone who's done a lot in life already. When I was younger, I worked in production accounting in Los Angeles. I studied film. My degree is in film studies, but I'd always done a little bit of bookkeeping to get through school and afterwards, and then I ended up in that field, combining the film and accounting. Then I married and raised a family. I saw my parents through the end of their lives. And then when my son was about to go to college, I like to say when I was about to launch him, I decided, well, I'd like to travel again too. I was on my own at that point. And so I didn't really know I was going to become a nomad. I just initially set out for 1 year to travel and visit friends and work. And I'd done a little bit of remote working, so I knew I could do it. Um, and then it took a turn after about a year when I realized it could be a lifestyle and started meeting up in the nomad community. And that was 2016, so it's been 8 years for me.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah, I'm the same. I discovered it is quite a lifestyle with a lot of different people you can meet along the way. But sounds like you kind of kept that bookkeeping throughout. You had such a background in it. You knew it was something you could sustain while you were traveling. So I'm just curious before we go on, can you tell us what do you love about the digital nomad lifestyle and what are some of the drawbacks or disadvantages for you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I think some of the things to love are pretty obvious, the travel and seeing new places, learning about new cultures and meeting new people. One of the things I always say is the list just gets longer for me. When I initially started, I probably had, I don't know, a medium list of places I wanted to go. And then along the way, as you meet all the incredible people that do this, everybody's got incredible stories to tell, places they've been. And so then, oh, I want to go there. I want to go there too, or someone invites you somewhere. So it's just an expansive lifestyle. It's just such a cool way to grow and learn. Um, there's places and things I've done that I never thought I would, when I initially started. So that's just awesome. Drawbacks, I guess, learning how to find your community is a thing. Like that's a skill you kind of have to figure out, I think. Um, Dumb little things like figuring out where to get your hair done, those kind of things. I mean, I don't know that they're drawbacks. I feel like they're all kind of fun challenges, wherever you go. But then I guess one other thing I would say is eventually trying to figure out, like, do I ever go back to a normal life? You know, is that and maybe, then continuing to relate to your family and friends that haven't been traveling, I found that just a little bit of a challenge, because your life changes in a way, and many people you've known, their lives don't change really. So that's interesting. But overall, I mean, I'd say the good outweighs the bad, in spades for sure.
No, I think you've painted a really realistic portrait of what it's like for a lot of people. I definitely feel you on the going back home and speaking with people, and their lives are changing, but at a different pace, I would say it feels that way to me. And I
Yeah.
know that, yeah, that you have to kind of start to pivot and connect with them in different ways. So hopefully you've been able to
Yeah.
do and find
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
community, like you said.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and community for sure. I mean, I think that's been one of the most fun, creative parts of it is getting to new places, finding your people, staying connected with all the people you've met along the way because they know someone who's going to be where you're going, and then you run into somebody who knows somebody else. It is its own small world in a way
Yeah,
within
yeah.
the world.
It does
Yeah,
feel for everybody, I think this is great. It's starting to grow after the pandemic. More people are joining
indeed.
our ranks. So it'll mean even more
Yeah,
people. Well,
yeah.
let's talk about how you sustain your life as a digital nomad. So you've mentioned already what you got into, how you got started. Can you tell us now what you're doing for work online and how you found your current job that you have?
Yeah, and so I'm a freelance bookkeeper slash financial organizer. So I have 4 to 6, 7 clients at a time. I have two anchor clients, I call them, that are larger, and then 2 to 4 small clients, depending on the time of the year. And, sometimes one will come and go kind of thing. Maybe they just need stuff for a while. But the two anchor clients I have, I found when I was working, living in Las Vegas Valley area, deciding to figure out how to have a new career for myself. And a friend suggested and said, "Have you ever thought about getting QuickBooks certified and looking for small business bookkeeping clients?" And I was like, "Oh, well, that's an interesting idea. That seems like doable." And so I did that. I got certified, and we can talk more about that. But and then I found my first client there that has a property management and brokerage. And then I had another friend that I've had forever, a UX UI designer, that wanted some help. And so those two clients I've had for over 12 years. And initially, those jobs were one was remote right from the get-go. One was partially remote. I would go into their office initially. And then the others I have picked up along the way, within the nomad community traveling. You just end up talking about what you do, and then people will, finance work it's always needed.
Yeah,
There's
there's
always been demand in my life for it. It just seems like it's a thing that people need.
yes.
So I really have had the clients I have for the big clients for quite a long time. And when I wanted to start traveling, then I asked, can I try this remotely for a year initially? And I would say one of the clients wasn't so sure initially. And then after that year, it was like, of course, this is fine. It's easy. Everything works, easily remotely. So that's sort of how I did it. And I think like I said, I didn't really set out to be a digital nomad in a sense, but that's what's come, that's what it's become, I guess.
Yeah, and I think there's such a power when you figure out, hey, I can do this all online and I can just do it from anywhere. That's the best kind of job I think we're all looking
Yeah.
for, especially one that's not time zone based also. I think it helps personally for your
Oh
lifestyle.
yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely.
that is great. It sounds like most of your work came from word of mouth and networking.
Yes.
Do you know any
Yes, I would say that.
websites that you might recommend, or are there websites people can go to if they're just starting out and they don't have any connections yet?
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say there's a few different things that come to mind. QuickBooks would be the number one online software for bookkeeping, I would say. There's another one called Xero, Xero, that I've used with clients from the UK. So the UK, Europe-based clients, I think, are more familiar with that one. Both of them have training programs you can take, and they also have setups for bookkeeper accountants to help find clients if you get in their system and do their trainings. The price can vary a lot. I feel like Xero is really minimal to do their training, but it's a much shorter, smaller training and they're a smaller company. QuickBooks has different levels, and you can become what's called a pro advisor with them and get into a client referral kind of a program. So there's those type of bookkeeping software sites that you can get a ton of information, training, and even if you work it, you can get clients that way. Also, one of the other things I'm involved in is a online co-working space associated with Jenny Lack's Digital Nomad Girls. She has a space called The Lab. And there is within that a job referral, like every week there's postings of jobs. There are all kinds of remote jobs, not just finance, but that's another source because I feel like there's 10 to 20 jobs a week posted there. And then also I have been in other Facebook groups, different kinds of groups for bookkeeping and accounting. I feel like that's more something that's always changing that you can search on. The career I talked about that I had when I was young doing production accounting, which at that time was the way to work and travel, right? Because I would work on films on location and I'd travel for 3 months, 6 months, a year. There's a woman called Emily Rice that has a site now that does, she and her group do post-production film accounting, and I haven't checked it in a while, but for a long time they were posting jobs as well. So those are some of the things that come to mind. I don't use a ton of those because I've had my clients for so long. So really those bookkeeping sites are the ones that come to mind the most for me.
That is such valuable information. Thank you for sharing.
Oh
So
yeah.
how long would a QuickBooks certification program take, would you say? And what is like a ballpark figure of the price? Because I know, as you said, that's the most common.
Yeah. So when I did it, I know that they have in-person trainings that could be like a weekend long, and then where you go all day, Saturday and Sunday. I did that one years ago. They still have that. And then they also have online trainings. And I feel like their price range is right between 500 and 1,000 to do the full training. Um, for either one of those, either the weekend or the online training. Um, and then they have testing, that goes with that so that you actually do get certified. And then
I'm gonna
that can be on your own site.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to ask you from a lay woman's perspective here. One thing I imagine that you would do in your job is organize receipts. Is that like a big part of the bookkeeping world? And are you getting like photos
Well,
or scans of these and then using the QuickBooks rules to put them in
yeah,
categories?
yeah, so there are programs that will capture receipts. Personally, for my particular clients, because I don't do a lot of expense reporting, that kind of thing, but there are programs like Expensify, things like this, and those are always evolving, and obviously AI is going to be evolving all of this also pretty quickly, where you can do phone capture of receipts and then it goes right into, and those can connect to QuickBooks. You can upload, your photos into the program so all your stuff is there. The paper receipt, because everything is really on bank statements and credit card statements now, the only thing would be cash receipts that are still sort of, important for people. So, and I really don't see much of it at all, personally, but there are definitely programs that do this.
Yeah, that was another question I was going to have for you is how you feel AI is going to influence the future of this industry. What I'm sensing at the moment anyway is most jobs AI can assist you, but it cannot do everything perfectly, so we are still essential.
Yeah, and I'm keeping an eye on it because it does seem like my work would be one of the things that it could easily kind of get into. And that's exactly right. Like there are ways to, connect your bank accounts and things now. There have been for a while, but matching doing the human analyzing of things, it's not there yet. So I don't know. I have no idea how fast that's going to happen, or how much it's going to integrate. But I did a little search for it recently, just seeing like what's out there. And there's a couple different companies saying that they are using AI to assist with that. But when I've dug into it at this moment in time in 2024, mid 2024, there's nothing astounding to me. But I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to see, but I do think this is like yeah, like you've already been saying, an essential job people want. I feel like once you get someone doing your books and, organizing things
Yeah.
for you, it's kind of like your hairdresser. You just keep that hairdresser as long as you're in the same city.
Yeah.
Trust them and you're not going to change, but you're going to need that hairdresser regularly to help you. So it's a good industry.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes me think that, one of the things that I always talk about with new clients is that I work with their CPAs or tax preparers, because everybody's got, specific things little, specific things they want to see. Um, and that's great. Like I want to know, how do you want to see it? So that's the thing is I'm not a CPA or a tax preparer, but I work closely with those people, with my clients, so that come tax time every year, it becomes like, it becomes rote. It's easy for it to just happen year after year. It gets easier as we go.
That's everybody's dream is to not even have to think about taxes or getting all of those things organized. It's so helpful. You've already mentioned a few areas of this world, bookkeeping, finance, that people may not have thought were jobs, such as post-production film accounting. Are there any other
Yeah.
jobs in this world that you've come in contact with that you didn't even know was possible, but is an option for people out there if they want to start getting into this?
I'm trying to think that one that I'm not so sure about. Yeah, I don't know. I think finance is pretty standard across different industries. I remember one time meeting someone that was very specifically involved in bars and helping them analyze like how many shots came out of a bottle. There was like, computer program that connected to the bottles or something so they could really analyze like if people were over pouring, that kind of thing, and how it affected their inventory and their spending. And I was like, wow, I've never heard of that. That was wild.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you an example from me. I have a finance degree, but it's general finance. And years
Okay.
afterwards, 4 or 5 years after, I found a job in the city where I was working, basically inputting the numbers from clients into their tax return systems. So TurboTax, for
Oh,
example. And I never knew that that even could be a job because I didn't have a CPA. But there are many stages to the process of taxes and bookkeeping, like you're saying, that they need people to help because it's such a big task for everybody to get these tax returns done that you could look
yeah.
into. It is definitely an online job at this point.
Sure, sure. Like I would think companies like H&R Block and things like that would probably hire for remote input type of thing during tax season, especially. My mom was a tax preparer, so that's part of the reason I didn't really want to do that part of it because it was so intensive for that one period of time in the year. It's a lot of stress and pressure. But I'm happy to get people ready to go see their tax preparers.
It's nice that there's a middleman element of this. So you've
Yeah.
mentioned the QuickBooks certification, you mentioned Zero. Is QuickBooks only for the US clients, or is that something you could pose to anyone anywhere, even digital nomads, if you wanted to help them?
I'm not sure. I would say, like I mentioned, the UK and European clients I've dealt with all wanted to use zero. So I do feel like potentially the tax codes and things are separated a bit, but there is multi-currency capability in both of those. And I do have one client that I work with in multiple currencies because she's in multiple countries, her businesses. So I think it's a case by case basis. Most of my clients are American. And the couple that I've done in the UK and Europe, like I said, use zero. So I don't know the answer to that specifically.
Yeah, no worries at all. I know people may not be aware of this who are not American watching this, but there are like Americans must file tax returns every year. And sometimes there's specialties where if you know how to do the US tax or even a little bit of that side, and you know the local tax, where whatever country you're in, knowing the rules between those two countries is its own industry. It's amazing
Oh,
how
for
much
sure.
work is generated by this very fact that US citizens have to file tax returns.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you can never, unless you revoke your citizenship, you can never not file. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily paying if you have residency in another country that you're paying in, because you can exclude income in the US, but you're always filing as a United States citizen.
Yeah, so maybe if you're someone watching who, is fluent or knows a lot about, let's say, Portuguese tax, but you've never thought about
Yeah.
helping the Americans on that side, maybe it's just a matter of getting some trainings and some certifications, and you can find this job that will allow you to go remote if you want.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering
Yeah.
about
I mean,
conferences, Carol. Like, do you think it's worth going to some financial conferences to do some kind of networking? Have you
sure.
ever done this? Or I don't know if you know
The
any.
only thing,
Or
yeah, I don't know of any finance conferences, but I would say that the one I did a retreat through Digital Nomad Girls years ago for women that work in travel, and there were 20 women. So and from that, one of those women is a client of mine. So I think any type of retreats, any type of networking, it can come from anywhere. Like I said, because finance is so needed. Whatever you're doing, whatever your hobbies are, could bring it as well. I don't know of any specific finance conferences, but I'm sure there are some. I'm sure there are some through QuickBooks.
yeah, absolutely. So I think
Yeah.
this is, like you said, a very vital industry, a big industry. I'm sure there's always elements of this that are growing when new regulations are put into place. So, for example, this is not something we have to say that we know about, but crypto, for example, is a whole new
Yeah.
side of things that came out, came
Oh
in
yeah.
some years ago. If you've got knowledge or you start to learn a bit about how that is treated for tax purposes in certain countries, it's a whole other world you could try to create a business around for yourself as a nomad.
Yeah, I don't think anyone knows that stuff yet about crypto, but
It's true. It's true. So yeah, there's new jobs being
yeah, and I
created every.
mean, and the intersection of visas and taxes internationally is just huge, you know. I'm currently based in Spain, and I'm working on a language visa currently because I did do consultations with lawyers and accountants to look into the Nomad visa for Spain. And the bottom line for me was that the tax was much higher than I currently pay in the US. It wasn't because I'm a freelance single person, but it took me quite a lot of digging just to get to that information. So I feel like that whole field is very country specific too. Each visa has its own, some things cross over, but each one definitely is very specific to that country.
Yeah, everybody please
So
consult
that could be another
someone
area.
before you sign
Yeah,
or decide to do some of these things.
yeah,
I am curious because we talked about a tax season. I know you're not doing taxes per se. Would you say that the work you're doing is happening throughout the year, or is it more something that you kind of
yeah,
get organized for a couple months, 3 months
yeah.
a year?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and let me just back up a little bit and just explain exactly what I do, because as a online small business bookkeeper, financial organizer, basically what I'm doing for small businesses is connecting all of their bank accounts, credit cards, retirement accounts, anything that they have to these online platforms, and then monthly allocating all the transactions to all the different accounts in the chart of accounts, reconciling all the accounts to the bank or the credit card to make sure everything's in balance, things haven't been missed or doubled, and then creating financial statements that I send to them so they can get a little snapshot of their business, where they're at, how it's going. And in my mind, it's important to do it monthly, at the very least quarterly, depending on the size of your business and how much, how much you have going on. So that you can plan things like estimated taxes or whatever. Every business is specific, right? But it is a monthly thing or a quarterly thing. It's not just a once a year thing. And just having your eyes on, having eyes on your accounts all the time is important, because we all know, fraud happens. All of a sudden something pops up and, what's this charge on this account or whatever. So just always having eyes on things is a big value. And knowing what is happening in your business, so that you can plan and make changes throughout the year, not just once a year.
You can imagine the moment you have more than two credit cards and more than three bank accounts, having to keep it all and juggle it in your mind. It would be wonderful to have someone else to take care of it. And like
Yeah.
you said, the peace of mind that some eyes are on it, and eyes that are trusted. That's also important. Is like
Yeah.
I would imagine, obviously, in this industry, if you can convey that sense of trust and responsibility
Yeah.
and organization, these are all great skills if you're thinking about trying this industry.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's key. People want to feel comfortable, of course.
Well, Carol, this has been really valuable information. I hope that anyone listening or watching who hasn't thought about this industry, but you've got an interest and perhaps already a background, that you might look into this as a way to get some location freedom, maybe start making some extra money building your own client base. So, Carol, is there anything else you would like to share with us that we haven't touched on?
I thought there was one thing I wanted to mention. Let me look at my notes a second. Oh, okay. So one thing I just wanted to say was, just in terms of the lifestyle, because it is very solo work, I'm on the introverted side for sure. So I love working alone at home, and I love the time zone things. I like being in Europe or Asia because I can work quietly and then connect with my clients on their time zones when I need to. But I would say it's so important to develop community for yourself and have regular things that you're doing in person and online, and having the right support, from whether it's therapy support or just regular calls with your family or friends, or being in these kind of online groups. I'm in that one online co-working group that's so great, because at any time I want, I can just log in and have co-working online, which is amazing. Like there's always people there to bounce things off of, and there's a little bit more accountability, just to show up and get things done when you need to get some work done. So I think it's just it's patience, because it can take a little while to get everything in place, but it's well worth it to do it.
So important to remember. We sometimes just focus on where are we going to find our next client, but you got to focus on your own mental health and physical health as well throughout the whole process.
Absolutely. Yeah, the balance. I think it's such an opportunity to have a balanced lifestyle, to be able to do well for yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, like you said.
Yeah, so important. Well, Carol, if people
Yeah.
want to follow you, where can they go? Or if you wanted to give us the Jenny Lax, any kind of information about that as well, we're happy to put it in the description.
Sure, sure. I'm Carol on the Fly, Carol with an E, Carole, Carol on the Fly. That's me on Instagram, and that's actually also my website. And I've been slacking a little bit lately. I haven't been posting as much because I've had a good 8 months here in Madrid, which has been amazing to slow down just a little bit. But that's where I live online, and Jenny's group is called The Lab by Digital Nomad Girls, and that's like both, and there's a membership site and there's also a free site on Facebook that's really big. That's kind of good to do reference work too within that group. So I would say those are sort of the main connections for me.
Thank you for sharing, Carol. And thank you for coming on and explaining this world to us. We know a bit more, getting inspired here. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Becky. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.